I mean, 4-day one, which is kind of rare for me, and the fans have just been great.
Yeah. Has it been weird at all, like doing this again after 2 years?
It is kind of bizarre, a little bit, you
Yeah.
know. But the fans, like I say, the energy level has been great. Everyone's been wonderful coming by the table and everything, and I've had a blast. I'll come back.
Yeah, well, I mean, the weirdest thing is you can't mute anybody.
Yeah,
It's still talking.
they can't change the channel. So that's
Absolutely.
That's true. That's true. Amazing. Well, we are here about, iconic.
He's a professional drummer, so he had the microphones and the equipment, and he's also an audio engineer at the LA Recording School, all this stuff. He's Pro Tools certified, so I didn't have to worry about anything, even though I was an engineer in radio for a number of years. I didn't have to worry about levels and compression and all of that stuff. I had him, so I throw him a little money. I keep him employed, and we got to do all of our, like last season of Amphibia, we did totally at my house, and we've done a lot of our Mickey and Donald and Goofy stuff from home.
Yeah.
And so it's actually nice. I don't want to go back to studio. Because, you know, you walk down the hall to a bedroom that I've turned into a studio, and it's a lot easier than getting in your car and driving to the studio. Got to go through the COVID stuff, and, you know, and sterilize your mask in your face and all this kind of stuff. And it's just
You'd rather have that 10-yard commute?
That's right. Yeah, with no pants. I don't have to. It makes it much easier. So I've gotten used to it. It's a little harder to go back to the studio now.
Yeah.
Must be nice. I converted a closet in my guest room into my little makeshift studio, and it had no air conditioning, and it had a window that the sun hit all day long. So I would get in there for a 45-minute session and bake my butt off. It was like, could not wait to open that door. So I went back to the studio, but yeah, other than eating, I guess hobbies I took on, I just, I had lots of house projects that I caught up on. That was fun.
I've been doing a lot of drinking. I find that the last 2 years, it sort of helped me get through it. A little tea now and again. It's the same. My wife and I moved. I was born in New Mexico, and we moved to New Mexico literally right before the pandemic. But thank God, prior to that, we had taken this moldy old one-car garage and had converted it into a studio apartment. And it took in a little closet and said, well, this will be where I'll do my auditions, and I can send them to LA, and I can fly to LA for the gigs. Then it became very clear that I was not going to be flying to LA for any gigs anytime soon. So it's the same deal. We had to really upgrade, get the exact right equipment. Fortunately, I knew an engineer from Disney that could tell me this is the bottom line of what you need. And yeah, so now I walk outside, and it's way better.
Nice.
What about you, Phil?
Actually, it's been a huge swell because there was a period where all of Hollywood shut down except for animation.
Right.
That's true.
Because, they took all the animators, sent them home, email us your drawings, and the same thing with the voices. All right, say these lines, send it to us. You can't do that with a feature film. It's like, all right, Tom Cruise, shoot your close-ups and then text them to us.
In the jet.
Amazing. This question is
It's so weird, especially with young kids. Because people are, this is Phil LaMarr, he's goofy. And no, this is some weird old man. But if I tell them, I can talk like Goofy, would you like me to talk like Goofy? Then, yeah, I see. And then they look at me weird and like, okay, they're kind of putting this together. They don't get the idea. It's like pulling the mask off of Santa Claus or something. So we try and keep the magic as much as we can. So, no, Goofy's kind of this character. I can talk like him. And that works with the little kids. And with the older kids, they know. And it used to be very protective at Disney, and they wouldn't even give us credit as the voices on albums and things like that, because they said they didn't want to, destroy the magic and things like that. Well, if the kid can read, he probably knows there's an actor. He also directed this and wrote it and everything. So it was kind of interesting, and obviously with the interviews and all the internet exposure you get, it's kind of a moot point anymore. So if you're old enough to look at the internet and you want to find out who does the voice of Goofy or Mickey or anybody else, you can find it out. And when I was growing up, I'd always wonder, who's Dawes Butler? Which one
Right,
did he
yeah,
do? You know,
exactly.
it was hard to figure that out.
Yeah. Actually, that's one of the things that blows my mind is the fact that those guys, the people who were the iconic voices when I was a child, I now know their names.
Yeah.
Didn't back then.
Yeah.
Dawes Butler, Don Messick.
Yeah.
But I still, to this day, have no idea what they look like.
Oh, I was very fortunate when I came out to California in 1986. A friend of mine said, "Oh, you should take classes from Dawes Butler."
Really?
And they gave me his phone number, and I was like, "The Dawes Butler." I knew who he was at that time. And for those that don't, he did all the Hanna-Barbera characters: Yogi Bear, Captain Crunch, Huckleberry Hound, all of these characters, about 40-some major characters. And and his regular voice was almost like Captain Crunch. He said, "Well, Bill, come on over Wednesday. We have a class, and it's $10. And if you don't have any money, don't worry about it." I did that for a couple of years, and there were some great people that came out of that class. Nancy Cartwright, Corey Burton, a bunch of people that are iconic today. Learned from him, and he was really the first one that said, "It's not voice acting, it's voice acting. It's all about the acting." He said, "The voice will come. You'll find the voice. That's a technique. But the acting is where it's really at." And that's why it's so important to get, for anyone that wants to get into this business, learn to be a good actor first. Because whether you have a silly voice for a weird character, doesn't matter. It's all about, as Phil said, getting those words off the page and making it real, making it believable. That's the hard part of acting and voice acting. And now, like with COVID and all of this, you're in your room by yourself. You aren't even responding to anybody. So if I do a line with Mickey and, "Where's Mickey? Let's get out of here." I've got to ask now, well, how far away is Mickey? Is he 50 feet away? Is he 20 feet away? And said, "Oh, by the way, the room's on fire." that affects your acting. Let's get the heck out of here. Adjust the acting for that. So there's so much more that you have to do in your head when you're doing it solo. And that's the great joy of like working with other actors, because you bounce off of them, you get their energy, and you can just really get into the part more. But so I miss working with people.
Yes.
but it's convenient to walk down the hall.
Bret, you mentioned what kind of nerdy things are you personally into?
Part of the things are what?
What kind of nerdy?
Oh, nerdy thing? Oh God, I was a science nerd as a kid. I saw the movie, one of my favorite Disney movies was Absent-Minded Professor. I tried to make flubber in my never worked. But I also was a background. I had a background as electronics, and so I was a chief engineer of some radio stations as well as an on-air personality. I used to make Tesla coils and things like that because I love the old monster movies, Frankenstein stuff. So I want to make, and so I've had Halloween parties at my house and try and zap Frankenstein and then Frankenstein wake up. So at midnight, always, let's try it again. And all this fighting, and then so I had a thing hooked up for that. So that's the kind of weird nerdy stuff that I did.
I love it.
Well, I'm a comic book nerd, which is actually one of the main reasons I started coming to cons. It wasn't like, oh, I want people to tell me they like my stuff. Like, no, I want to meet John Byrne and George Perez. Although it's funny because that nerdiness sort of came into the work, like when we were doing the Justice League cartoon. It's like, oh wow, I'm now part of the DC universe. But sometimes, you have a guest actor come in to play, some, less well-known superhero. Like, so, wait, who is this Green Lantern Kilowog? Like, and usually I could just reach in my bag, hold on, I just came back from the comic book store. Here's what he looks like. So I was the R&D department for the
I guess the nerdy thing that I'm into is musicals. I've been into musicals since I was a kid. I know a lot. I know like the history of musical. I'm sort of an amateur lyricist. Musicals have always just spoken to me. Always, even now, I think more than. And I like most kinds of music, with the possible exception of electronic dance music. Maybe not that, but I just love musicals. I love the fact that they take you on so many different journeys, And a story was Stephen Sondheim, who wrote Pacific Overtures, which was the musical. It's why I can do an impression of Mako, because I would listen to this musical over and over and over again. Albert Finney, the actor of Scrooge, had died. And I came in one morning to my wife crying and said, oh man, Albert Finney died and he was so instrumental in my life. I wish I had just sent him a note. He probably never would have seen it, but I wanted, for my own edification, to thank him for what he gave to me. And my wife said, well, you know, yeah, Albert Finney's dead, but you know what, Stephen Sondheim is still alive. You should write him a letter, Greg. And so I did. I wrote him a letter saying, you wrote this Pacific Overtures, you have no idea what it meant to me. There's actually a lyric from Pacific Overtures called, it's the ripple, not the stream. And I say, Mr. Sondheim, I am one of those ripples. You don't even know I exist, but this is what you did for me. And I thought I would never hear from him again. And about 3 weeks later, sure enough, I said, what the hell is this? From Stephen Sondheim, a handwritten letter saying, Greg, thank you so much. I'm glad the show had such a salubrious effect on my life. First of all, what a salubrious name. When, oh, okay, that's good. And I realized, okay, this is definitely Stephen Sondheim. Right. Only Stephen Sondheim is going to say salubrious. So yeah, that is my heavy. That's my heavy geeky thing. That's amazing.
For me, it's really my first geekiness was Disney. Kind of similar to Phil there. I'm the guy behind the microphone that they'll say, well, you know, I think there was this one cartoon where Mickey did this, and I'm like, yes, Society Dog Show. And it was actually this, and they're like, wow, you really know your stuff. You don't just talk like Mickey. I'm like, oh no. Don't, let's go to, you want to have a wall talk? Like, I'll give you some Disney facts. And then my other nerddom is anything to do with the Wild West. I love the Old West, whether it's ghost towns or Wild West, Western movies, or restoring things in the Wild West. I have a chuck wagon that I rebuilt. I have a steam locomotive I'm working on now, so I'm big into that stuff. I mean, if I could just get on a horse and ride, I would. Actually, that's how I'm leaving the panel today.
All right.